Kai Mori was 25, an Omega, and a single father with no safety net left. By 6 a.m., the world had already crumbled around him. The woman who'd watched his 8-month-old son, Ren, for the past 3 months called in tears, her voice cracking so hard he could barely make out the words. She'd collapsed overnight, couldn't stand, couldn't take Ren even for an hour. Kai checked his bank account immediately after hanging up, the numbers staring back at him like a mockery. Barely enough for one day's formula, let alone emergency childcare. Calling in sick wasn't an option. 3 absences in 6 months, and Ethan Hale, the floor manager, had made it crystal clear. One more and he was gone. Losing this job meant losing the tiny apartment he shared with Ren in a week. No savings, no family, no other job offers. So when the snow started sticking to the windows, Kai did the only thing he could. He wrapped Ren in a thick knit blanket, pressed a kiss to his soft dark hair, and whispered, "Just one shift, little one. I promise." Vasa's wasn't just a restaurant. It was the crown jewel of Kale Vasa's empire, an alpha so high-ranking in the underground network that people lowered their voices even when mentioning his name in private. Kai had worked there as a server for 11 months, keeping his head down, his sense suppressed with blockers, never making a sound that might draw attention. Omegas like him didn't survive by standing out. They survived by being invisible. He slipped in through the back door at 6:30 a.m., diaper bag slung over one shoulder, Ren bundled against his chest. The prep cooks didn't glance up, they never did, too busy chopping and sautéing to notice the quiet Omega who always arrived 10 minutes early. The storage room near the service corridor was his only hope, small, windowless, rarely used before the dinner rush. Kai spread a folded tablecloth on the concrete floor, laid down the padded insert from Ren's diaper bag, and gently set his son down. Ren blinked up at him with those calm, observant eyes that felt too wise for a baby, like he understood the weight of the moment. "Be good," Kai murmured, brushing his thumb over Ren's cheek. He left the soft plush fox within reach, adjusted the blanket, and pulled the door shut just enough to leave a crack. Enough for air, not enough, he thought, for anyone to notice. He didn't see the way the gap aligned perfectly with the dim staircase leading down to Kale Voss's private office, or the faint, warm scent of alpha pheromone that drifted upward, sharp enough to make Kai's skin prickle, even through his blockers. The shift hit hard. Orders flooded in before 7 a.m., regulars craving Kale's famous steak and eggs, business clients discussing deals over mimosas. Kai moved on autopilot, refilling coffee, taking orders, carrying trays with steady hands, his mind always drifting back to the storage room. At 8:15, he slipped away for 30 seconds. Ren was still asleep, his tiny chest rising and falling in a slow rhythm. At 9:30, same thing, just a faint stir, then silence. By 10:45, the panic had settled in like a lead weight. He'd been so careful, but what if someone needed the storage room? What if Ethan found Ren? The man already hated Kai, had made comments about unreliable Omegas more than once, had stared at Kai's neck like he was trying to spot a mating mark. There wasn't one. Ren had been a mistake, a one-night stand with an alpha who'd vanished before Kai even knew he was pregnant. Kai's hands shook as he poured a customer's water, spilling a drop on the tablecloth. He apologized quickly, dabbing at it with a napkin, and when Ethan passed by, his sharp blue eyes zeroing in on the wet spot, Kai's heart nearly stopped. "Watch it, Mori," Ethan said, his voice low enough only Kai could hear. "One more mess, and we'll have a talk." Kai nodded, his throat tight. Talk meant termination. Termination meant homelessness. He couldn't let that happen. At 11:20, he couldn't take it anymore. He told the bartender he needed to use the restroom and sprinted down the corridor. The storage room door was still ajar, exactly as he'd left it. But the tablecloth was empty. The plush fox lay, discarded, on the floor. Ren was gone. Kai's blood ran cold. He searched every inch of the back area, behind the dish station, inside the linen closet, even the loading dock, his breath coming in ragged gasps. No sign of his son. No sound. Then he saw it, the staircase door at the end of the corridor, the one marked staff Only, no entry, the one that led straight to Kale Voss's office. It was slightly open, a thin line of warm light cutting across the concrete. Kai's hands trembled as he approached. Every story he'd heard about Kale Voss flashed through his mind. Ruthless, unforgiving, the kind of alpha who eliminated problems instead of solving them. He'd never even made eye contact with Kale, had only seen him from across the dining room. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black, his jawline sharp, a faint scar slicing through his stubble. The man exuded power, the kind that made Omega's Benung to shrink back. But Ren was behind that door. Kai pushed it open. The air changed instantly. Warmer, heavier, thick with alpha pheromone. Strong, controlled, not overwhelming, but enough to make Kai's knees weak. It wasn't aggressive, it was steady, grounding. He descended the stairs slowly, each step creaking louder than the last. At the bottom, the office door was also ajar. Kai hesitated, then pushed it wider. Kale Voss was sitting in a leather chair behind a low mahogany desk, his eyes closed, head tilted back. He looked like he'd fallen asleep mid-meeting, his black shirt unbuttoned to the collar, his forearms resting on the armrests, muscles flexing slightly even in repose. But Kai didn't see any of that, not really. All he saw was Ren, curled against Kale's chest, his tiny hand fisted in the fabric of Kale's shirt, his breathing slow and deep. Kale's arm was wrapped around him, his large hand supporting Ren's back with a gentleness that didn't match his reputation at all. It wasn't forced, wasn't awkward, it was instinctive, like he'd held a baby 100 times before. Kai froze in the doorway, unable to move. He'd expected anger, disgust, a demand to get out. Instead, he was staring at the most feared alpha in the city, holding his son like he was something precious. Kale's eyes opened slowly. Not suddenly, like he'd been aware of Kai's presence all along. His gaze locked onto Kai instantly, sharp and cold, the way it always was when he looked at Staff. But then it softened, just for a split second, as he glanced down at Ren. He wandered, Kale said, his voice lower than Kai expected, rich, with a faint gravel that sent a shiver down Kai's spine. Crawled right to the staircase. Sat there and stared at the door like he knew exactly where he was going. Kai tried to speak, but his throat was too tight. He swallowed hard, tears burning his eyes. "I'm so sorry, sir," he managed, his voice barely a whisper. "I had no choice. I couldn't find childcare. And if I didn't come in, I'd lose my job and—" "Stop," Kale said. One word, calm but absolute. Kai fell silent. Kale looked at him for a long moment, his gaze sweeping over Kai's disheveled hair, his stained apron, the way his hands were clasped tightly in front of him like he was begging. Then he nodded toward a chair in the corner. "Sit. You look like you're about to collapse." Kai obeyed, his legs giving out as he sank into the chair. He kept his eyes on Ren. On the way Kale's thumb brushed gently over Ren's back, a slow, unconscious motion. "He's calm," Kale said, more to himself than to Kai. "Too calm for his age. He's always been like that," Kai said, a faint note of pride slipping into his voice despite his fear. "Never fussy. Just quiet." Kale hummed, his gaze still on Ren. "What's his name?" "Ren." "Ren," Kale repeated, testing the name on his tongue. It sounded different coming from him, warmer, heavier. "Short for something." Kai shook his head. "Just Ren. It means water in Japanese. My mom's name was Mizu Water. I wanted something to remember her by." Kale nodded, like that made sense. The office was quiet. The only sounds Ren's soft breathing and the distant clatter of the restaurant above. Kai could still smell Kale's pheromone, thick and warm around him, and for the first time since he'd started taking blockers, he didn't feel the urge to reach for another dose. It didn't make him feel small or weak. It made him feel as safe. Which was ridiculous. Kale Voss was dangerous. He was an alpha. He was Kai's boss. But Ren looked safe. More than safe, he looked content, curled against Kale's chest like he'd found a home there. "He's an Omega," Kale said suddenly. It wasn't a question. Kai tensed. Yes, sir. The doctor confirmed it last month. Kale's jaw tightened slightly. His scent is unstable, flickering in and out. You're not bonded, are you? Kai shook his head. His father left before I knew I was pregnant. I haven't seen him since. Then he's missing a stable alpha presence, Gale said. His voice was matter of fact, but there was an edge to it, something Kai couldn't place. For Omegas this young, it's not just about comfort. It's about health. His scent will get worse. Restlessness, fevers, pain, if he doesn't have someone to ground him. Kai's chest tightened. He'd noticed Ren's restlessness, the way he'd wake up screaming in the middle of the night for no reason, the way his scent sometimes turned sharp and anxious. But he'd thought it was just colic or teething. He'd had no idea it was because of him, because he couldn't provide what Ren needed. I can't. I don't have anyone, he said, his voice breaking. I can't afford a mate, and even if I could, who would want an Omega with a baby? Kale didn't answer. He just looked at Ren, his hands still brushing over the baby's back. The moment stretched on, thick with unspoken words. Kai felt like he was being dissected, like Kale could see every fear, every secret, every desperate thing he'd done to keep Ren alive. He wanted to run, to grab Ren and flee, but he couldn't move. Not when Ren was so calm, not when Kale's pheromone was wrapping around him like a blanket. The door to the staircase creaked. Kai jumped, his head snapping up. Ethan Hale stood in the doorway, his eyes widening as he took the scene, Kai sitting in the corner, Kale holding Ren. For a split second, something dark flashed across Ethan's face. Jealousy, rage, something ugly, before it smoothed into a neutral mask. Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, Ethan said, his voice too polite. But the lunch rush is starting, and we're short-staffed. I was looking for Maury. Kale didn't even glance at him. He's here. Ethan's smile tightened. I see. But, sir, unauthorized children in the building are against policy, especially in your private office. Kale's gaze finally shifted to Ethan, cold enough to make the air in the room drop a few degrees. Policy is what I say it is, Hale. Ethan's jaw clenched. Of course, sir. But get back to work, Kale said. And if I hear you've spoken to Maury about this, or try to make his shift harder, you'll be out of a job before sunset. Understand? Ethan paled. Yes, sir. He glared at Kai before turning and leaving, the door slamming shut behind him. Kai let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Thank you, he said quietly. Kale looked back at him. He's been trying to get you fired for months. I've seen the reports, late write-ups when you were on time, complaints that never happened. He doesn't like Omegas, especially ones who don't know their place. Kai nodded. He'd known Ethan didn't like him, but he hadn't realized Kale had noticed. Why are you helping me? He asked, the question slipping out before he could stop it. Kale's gaze softened again as he looked at Ren. Because someone should have, he said. The words were simple, but they hit Kai like a punch to the chest. Because no one had helped him, not his family, not Ren's father, not even the social workers who'd shrugged and said he was on his own. No one had cared. But Kale Voss, the ruthless alpha boss, was sitting here holding his baby like he mattered. The intercom on Kale's desk buzzed. He pressed a button. What? Sir, Table 7 is asking for you. They say it's urgent. Kale sighed. He carefully shifted Ren in his arms, lifting him gently. You need to go back to work, he said to Kai. I'll keep him here. This room is safer than anywhere else in the building. Kai stood up, his heart racing. I can't leave him. What if? He's not going anywhere, Kale said, his voice firm but not unkind. I'll have someone outside the door. No one gets in but you. And you can come check on him every hour, 5 minutes, no more. I'll have the bartender cover your section. Kai hesitated. Leaving Ren with a stranger with Kale Voss should have terrified him. But Ren was still sleeping, still calm, and something in Kale's eyes made him trust. Okay, he said. Kale held Ren out to him. Kai took his son, pressing him close to his chest, breathing in his soft, sweet scent. Ren stirred, nuzzling into Kai's neck, and Kai's heart ached with love. I'll be back soon, he whispered to Ren. He handed Ren back to Kale, his fingers brushing against Kale's for a split second. The contact sent a jolt through Kai, warm, electric, nothing like the cold, clinical touches he was used to. Kale's gaze flicked to their hands, then back to Kai's face, his eyes darkening slightly. Go, he said, his voice a little rougher than before. Kai nodded and turned, hurrying up the stairs. When he stepped back into the restaurant, the noise hit him like a wave, voices, clattering dishes, the smell of food. But he didn't feel overwhelmed. He felt focused, because for the first time in months, he wasn't just surviving. He had something to fight for, something that felt like hope. The next few hours passed in a blur. Kai worked faster than usual, his movements sharp and efficient. Every hour on the dot, he slipped away to the staircase to Kale's office. Each time, Ren was still calm, sometimes sleeping, sometimes looking up at Kale with those wise eyes, sometimes reaching for Kale's hand like he was fascinated by it. Kale never seemed annoyed. He'd just sit there, working on his laptop or making calls, one hand always resting on Ren's back. Once Kai walked in to find Kale feeding Ren a bottle of formula. Where he'd gotten it, Kai had no idea, and Ren was drinking it like it was the most natural thing in the world. At 2 p.m., Kai slipped in for his usual check. Ren was asleep, curled up on Kale's lap, his head resting on Kale's thigh. Kale was running his fingers through Ren's soft hair, his gaze fixed on the baby, a look of something like wonder on his face. He didn't notice Kai at first, and Kai hesitated in the doorway, not wanting to break the moment. There was something so intimate about it, so vulnerable, that Kai felt like he was intruding. Kale looked up suddenly, his eyes meeting Kai's. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Kale's gaze was intense, like he was seeing Kai for the first time. Not just a quiet Omega server, but a person. Kai's heart raced, and he felt his cheeks heat up. He wanted to look away, but he couldn't. There was something in Kale's eyes, something warm, something hungry, that made him feel alive. He's been asking for you, Kale said, breaking the silence. His voice was low, intimate. Kai stepped closer. Really? Kale nodded. Fussed a little 10 minutes ago. Wouldn't calm down until I told him you'd be back soon. He hesitated, then added, he likes you. A lot. Kai smiled, a small, shaky thing. I like him too. More than anything. Kale's gaze softened. You're a good father, Kai. The use of his first name sent a shiver down Kai's spine. No one at work called him Kai. They called him Mori or the Omega. Hearing Kale say it warm and low felt like a gift. Thank you, he said. Kale stood up carefully, holding Ren in his arms. You should take a break. Go eat something. I'll watch him. Kai shook his head. I'm fine. I can keep working. Kai, Kale said, his voice firm. You haven't eaten since this morning. Go. I'll handle him. Kai hesitated, then nodded. He didn't want to leave, but his stomach was growling, and he knew Kale was right. Okay. Thank you. He turned to leave, but Kale called his name. Kai. Kai looked back. If you need anything at all, come to me. Don't go to Hale. Don't try to handle it alone. Kai's throat tightened. I will. Thank you, sir. Kale said. Call me Kale. Kale, Kai repeated. The name felt like a secret, something to cherish. He left the office, his heart racing. He went to the staff break room, grabbed a sandwich from the fridge, and sat down at the table. But he couldn't eat. All he could think about was Kale, his hands, his voice, the way he looked at Ren, the way he looked at Kai. He'd never felt this way about anyone, never felt this pull, this connection. It was dangerous. Kale was his boss. He was an alpha. He was out of Kai's league. But Kai couldn't help it. He was falling for him. The rest of the shift passed quickly. Kai checked on Ren every hour, each time finding him calmer, happier. At 5 p.m., the dinner rush started, and Kai was pulled back into the chaos. He worked until 8 p.m. when Ethan approached him, his face tight. "Maury, Kale wants to see you in his office." Now, Kai's heart sank. Had he done something wrong? Had Ren fussed? He nodded. Okay. He hurried down the staircase, his hands shaking. He pushed open the office door, expecting to find Kale angry or Ren upset. But Ren was asleep in a small portable crib. Where had Kale gotten that? And Kale was sitting at his desk, watching him. "Come in," Kale said. Kai stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "Is everything okay?" "Did Ren?" "He's fine," Kale said. "Sleeping like a log. I had someone bring the crib from my house. It was my nephew's. He doesn't use it anymore." Kai's eyes widened. You did that for him?" Kale nodded. "He needs a safe place to sleep, and I didn't want you to have to carry him back and forth to the storage room." He hesitated, then added, "I was thinking maybe you could bring him here more often. If you need to." "I don't mind." Kai's throat tightened. "I can't ask you to do that. It's too much." "You're not asking," Kale said. "I'm offering. I like having him here. He's a calming." Kai smiled. "He is, isn't he?" Kale stood up, walking around the desk to stand in front of Kai. He was tall, taller than Kai had realized up close, and Kai had to tilt his head back to look at him. Kale's pheromone was thick around him, warm and inviting, and Kai felt his knees go weak. "Kai," Kale said, his voice low. "I need to tell you something." Kai's heart raced. "What?" Kale reached out, his hand brushing against Kai's cheek. The touch was gentle, tentative, like he was afraid Kai would pull away. Kai leaned into it, closing his eyes. "I haven't felt this way about anyone in a long time," Kale said. Not since my brother died. He was the only person who ever made me feel like this, calm, happy, like I belonged." He paused, his thumb brushing over Kai's bottom lip. "You and Ren, you make me feel that way. Like I have something worth fighting for." Kai's eyes flew open. "Kale, I know this is fast," Kale said. "I know you're scared. I know I'm not the easiest person to trust. But I promise you, I will never hurt you. I will never hurt Ren. I want to protect you. I want to take care of you. If you'll let me." Kai's tears finally fell. He dreamed of this, of someone caring, of someone wanting to help, of someone loving him and Ren. But he never thought it would be Kale Voss. "I'm scared," he admitted. "I've been hurt so much. I don't know if I can do this." Kale pulled him close, wrapping his arms around him. Kai tensed at first, then melted into the embrace. Kale's arms were strong, warm, protective. He could feel Kale's heartbeat against his chest, steady and strong. "I'm not asking you to decide now," Kale said, his voice soft against Kai's ear. "Take all the time you need. But know this, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you. For Ren. Always." Kai closed his eyes, breathing in Kale's scent. It was a promise he wanted to believe. "Okay," he said, his voice muffled against Kale's chest. "Okay." Kale held him tighter, pressing a kiss to the top of his head. "Let's get Ren home," he said. "You're both exhausted." Kai nodded. He pulled away, wiping his tears, and smiled at Kale. "Thank you," he said, "for everything." Kale smiled back, a small, rare smile that made his eyes crinkle at the corners. "Thank you," he said, "for bringing him here, for letting me meet you." They packed up Ren's things. Kale insisted on carrying the diaper bag, and Kai held Ren in his arms. They walked out of the restaurant together, Kale's hand resting on the small of Kai's back, guiding him. The snow had stopped, and the night air was cold, but Kai didn't feel it. He felt warm, warm from Kale's touch, warm from his pheromone, warm from the hope that was blooming in his chest. Kale's car was parked outside, a black SUV, sleek and expensive. He opened the door for Kai, helping him into the back seat. He settled Rin in a car seat, another thing he'd had installed, Kai realized, and then climbed into the driver's seat. The ride to Kai's apartment was quiet, but not awkward. They talked about Rin, his favorite toys, his habit of waking up at 3 a.m. to play, the way he laughed when Kai tickled his feet. Kale listened, asking questions like he genuinely cared. When they arrived at Kai's apartment building, small, run down, in a bad part of town, Kale frowned. "You live here." Kai nodded, his cheeks heating up. "It's not much, but it's home." Kale turned off the car. "I'm not letting you stay here." "It's not safe." Kai's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "I can't afford anything else." "I'll take care of it," Kale said. "I have a guest house on my property. It's small, but it's safe, and it's yours. You can move in tomorrow." Kai shook his head. "I can't accept that. It's too much." Kale said, his voice firm. "I'm not asking. I'm telling you. Ren deserves to grow up in a safe place. You deserve to feel safe. Please, let me do this." Kai hesitated, then nodded. He was tired of fighting, tired of struggling. For the first time in his life, he wanted to let someone take care of him. "Okay," he said. Kale smiled. "Good." He walked Kai and Rin up to their apartment, carrying the diaper bag. Kai unlocked the door, stepping inside. It was small, one bedroom, a tiny living room, a kitchen barely big enough for one person, but it was clean, filled with Ren's toys and pictures of Kai's mom. Kale looked around, his gaze softening. "It's cozy," he said. Kai smiled. "It's home." He laid Ren down in his crib, tucking him in. Ren stirred, but didn't wake, his small hand fisting the edge of his blanket. Kai leaned down, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "I love you," he whispered. He turned around to find Kale standing behind him, watching him. Their eyes met, and Kai felt that same pull, warm, electric, undeniable. Kale stepped closer, his hands resting on Kai's waist. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, his voice low. Kai nodded. Kale leaned down, his lips brushing against Kai's. It was soft, tentative, like he was afraid to scare Kai away. Kai kissed him back, his hands wrapping around Kale's neck. The kiss deepened, slow and gentle, filled with all the things they couldn't say: fear, hope, longing, love. Kale's pheromone flooded Kai's senses, warm and inviting, and Kai felt himself melting into Kale's arms. When they pulled away, Kai's cheeks were flushed, his breathing heavy. "I want this," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I want you. I want us." Kale smiled, pressing his forehead against Kai's. "Then we'll have it. All of it. I promise." He kissed Kai again, softer this time, before pulling away. "I should go." "You need to sleep." Kai nodded. "Thank you. For the ride, for the guest house, for everything." Kale squeezed his hand. "I'll be back tomorrow to help you move. And I'll bring breakfast." Kai smiled. "I'd like that." Kale walked to the door, pausing to look back at Kai. "Good night, Kai." "Good night, Kale." After Kale left, Kai stood in the living room, staring at the door. He couldn't believe what had happened. Just 24 hours ago, he'd been desperate, scared, ready to lose everything. Now he had a safe place to live, a job that didn't feel like a death sentence, and an alpha who loved him and his son. It felt like a dream. He climbed into bed, but he couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the day in his mind, the way Kale had held Ren, the way he defended Kai against Ethan, the way he kissed him. He felt happy, happier than he'd felt in years. But he also felt scared. What if Kale changed his mind? What if this was all a trick? What if he got hurt again? But then he thought of Ren, of the way he'd curled up against Kale, of the way he'd calmed down at the sound of Kale's voice, of the way he'd reached for Kale's hand like he knew he was safe. Ren had already chosen Kale. And maybe Kai thought it was time for him to choose too. He closed his eyes, smiling. Tomorrow was a new day, a day filled with hope, a day where he didn't have to survive alone. The next morning, Cale arrived at 8 a.m., carrying breakfast, pancakes, bacon, coffee, and a team of movers. Kai was still in his pajamas, Rin sitting on his lap, eating cereal. Cale smiled when he saw them, his eyes softening. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning," Kai replied, his cheeks heating up. They ate breakfast together, Cale feeding Rin small bites of pancake, Kai drinking coffee and watching them. It felt like a family, like something Kai had always wanted but never had. After breakfast, the movers got to work, packing up Kai's things. Cale helped Kai dress Ren, his hands gentle as he buttoned Ren's shirt and pulled on his socks. It was a small domestic moment, but it meant everything to Kai. By noon, they were settled into the guest house. It was small, 2 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, but it was beautiful, with large windows and a small backyard. Ren immediately started crawling around the living room, exploring his new home, his face lighting up with joy. Kai watched him, smiling, his heart full. Cale stood beside him, his arm wrapping around Kai's waist. "Do you like it?" he asked. Kai nodded, leaning into Cale's side. "I love it." "Thank you." Cale kissed the top of his head. "I'm glad." Over the next few weeks, everything fell into place. Kai continued working at Voss's, but his hours were adjusted. He now worked from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., so he could be home with Ren in the mornings and evenings. Cale would stop by the restaurant during his shift, bringing Kai coffee or a snack, and sometimes Ren would come too, sitting in a high chair in Cale's office while Kai worked. Ethan kept his distance, his eyes filled with resentment, but he didn't dare say anything to Kai, not with Cale watching. Ren thrived in his new home. His sense stabilized, no longer sharp or anxious, but warm and calm. He slept through the night, laughed more, and grew more curious about the world around him. He loved Cale, would crawl to him the second he walked through the door, would cry if Cale left the room, would curl up in Cale's lap for naps. Cale loved him back, spoiling him with toys and attention, and Kai loved watching them together. Kai and Cale's relationship grew stronger too. They kissed, they cuddled, they made love slow, gentle, filled with passion and tenderness. Cale was patient with Kai, never pushing him to do anything he wasn't ready for, always making sure he felt safe and loved. Kai learned to trust him, to open up to him, to let him take care of him. He told Cale about his mom, who died when he was 18, about his dad, who'd abandoned them when Kai was a kid, about the fear and loneliness he felt raising Ren alone. Cale listened, holding him close, telling him he was safe now, that he'd never be alone again. One evening, after Kai had finished work, he came home to find Cale and Ren sitting on the backyard grass, watching the sunset. Ren was sitting in Cale's lap, holding a flower, his small fingers plucking at the petals. Cale was talking to him, his voice soft, telling him about the stars and the moon. Kai stood in the doorway, watching them, his heart full. This was his family. This was his home. Cale looked up, spotting Kai. He smiled, waving him over. "Come join us," he said. Kai walked outside, sitting down beside them. Ren immediately crawled into Kai's lap, nuzzling into his neck. Kai held him close, pressing a kiss to his hair. "The sunset is beautiful," Kai said. Cale nodded, his arm wrapping around Kai's shoulders. "It is, but not as beautiful as you two." Kai blushed, smiling. "You're cheesy." Cale laughed, a deep, rich sound that made Kai's heart race. "Only for you." They sat there for a long time, watching the sunset, holding each other, Ren sleeping peacefully in Kai's lap. Kai felt calm, happy, content, something he'd never felt before. He knew there would be challenges ahead, Ethan's resentment, the dangers of Cale's world, the fear of losing what they had, but he didn't care. Because he had Cale. He had Ren. He had a family. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Cale turned to Kai, his eyes serious. "Kai," he said, I want to bond with you. I want to be your mate. I want to be Ren's father in every way that matters. Will you let me? Kai's eyes filled with tears. He nodded, his voice breaking. Yes, yes, I will. Kale smiled, leaning down to kiss him. The kiss was deep, passionate, filled with love and promise. When they pulled away, Kale rested his forehead against Kai's. I love you, he said. I love you too, Kai replied. Ren stirred in Kai's lap, opening his eyes. He looked at Kale, then at Kai, and smiled a big, toothless smile that lit up his face. Kai and Kale laughed, holding each other tighter. In that moment, Kai knew everything was going to be okay. He'd gone from a desperate Omega with no hope to a loved, cherished mate with a family. He brought his baby to work, expecting to be fired, and instead he'd found love. He'd found home. The bond marking didn't happen right away. Kale insisted on taking it slow, on letting Kai feel completely secure before sealing something so permanent. They talked about it for weeks. Late at night, after Ren had fallen asleep, curled up on the couch with mugs of hot cocoa, about what it meant, about the way alpha and omega pheromones would weave together, about the lifelong commitment. Kai had hesitated at first, the ghost of abandonment lingering like a shadow. But every time he looked at Kale with Ren, every time he felt Kale's hand on his back, every time he breathed in the steady, protective scent of his alpha, the fear faded. He wanted this. He wanted them to be bound, to be family, to never have to face the world alone again. It happened on a quiet Saturday evening. They'd taken Ren to the park, pushed him on the swings until his laughter echoed through the trees, then gone home and made dinner together. Spaghetti, Ren's favorite, even though most of it ended up on his cheeks. After bathing Ren and tucking him into bed, Kale led Kai to the backyard, where fairy lights twinkled above the patio, casting warm, golden glow over the grass. Are you sure? Kale asked, his voice low, his hands cupping Kai's face. His thumbs brushed over Kai's cheekbones, gentle as a whisper. Kai nodded, his eyes shining with tears. I'm sure. More sure than I've ever been of anything. Kale leaned down, pressing his lips to Kai's neck, right where the bond mark would sit, over his mating gland. His lips were warm, his breath hot against Kai's skin, and Kai shivered, tilting his head to give Kale better access. He felt Kale's fangs lengthen, felt the sharp, brief pain as they pierced his skin, and then a flood of warmth that spread through his veins, wrapping around him like a blanket. Kale's pheromones surged, thick and sweet, weaving with Kai's own scent, binding them together. Kai gasped, his hands clinging to Kale's shoulders, as the world narrowed down to the feel of Kale's lips on his neck, the sound of his heart beating, the scent of their combined pheromones, safe, warm home. When Kale pulled away, he pressed a soft kiss to the fresh mark, his eyes dark with emotion. Mine, he said, his voice rough with feeling. Yours, Kai replied, leaning up to kiss him. This kiss was different, deeper, more intense, the bond thrumming between them, a silent song of belonging. Kale lifted Kai into his arms, carrying him inside, and they made love slowly, tenderly, the bond singing between them. Kai had never felt so loved, so cherished, so seen. Kale worshipped him with his hands, his lips, his words, telling him how beautiful he was, how much he meant, how he'd never let anyone hurt him. Kai clung to him, pouring out all the love and gratitude and longing he kept bottled up for years, and when they finally collapsed together, breathless and sated, Kale held him close, his hand resting over the bond mark, his lips against Kai's forehead. I love you, Kale whispered. I love you too, Kai said, closing his eyes and letting himself drift off to sleep, safe in his alpha's arms. For a month, everything was perfect. Kai moved into Kale's main house, leaving the guest house behind for weekends when they wanted a little privacy, and Ren settled into his new room, filled with toys and books and a crib that matched Kale's. Kai's hours at the restaurant were adjusted to part-time, allowing him to spend more time with Ren during the day, and Kale started coming home earlier, leaving work in the afternoon to join them for walks in the park or lazy afternoons on the couch. Ren's scent grew stronger, more stable, warm, and sweet, and he started calling Kale Daddy, a word that made Kale's eyes fill with tears the first time he heard it, made Kai's heart feel like it was going to burst. Ethan kept his distance, but Kai could feel his eyes on him every time he was at work, cold, angry, calculating. He stopped making snide comments, stopped trying to get Kai in trouble. But there was something about the way he watched, the way he lingered in the shadows, that made Kai's skin crawl. Kale noticed too, had warned his security team to keep an eye on Ethan, but there was nothing concrete to act on, just a bad feeling, a sense that Ethan was planning something. That bad feeling proved right on a rainy Tuesday evening. Kai was at work, folding napkins behind the bar, when his phone rang. It was Kale's housekeeper, Maria, her voice shaking so hard Kai could barely understand her. "Mr. Mori, Kai, something's wrong. Renhe's gone. I went to check on him after his nap, and the window was open, and he's not in his room. I can't find him anywhere." Kai's world stopped. He dropped the napkin, his hand shaking so hard he could barely hold the phone. "What? What do you mean he's gone? Did you check the whole house?" "The backyard. I checked everywhere," Maria sobbed. "The window screen is cut, Kai. Someone took him. I'm so sorry. I was right outside folding laundry, and I just stepped inside for a minute and—" "It's not your fault," Kai said, his voice numb. He hung up the phone and ran for the back door, ignoring the bartender's calls, ignoring Ethan's smirk as he passed by. He sprinted to his car. Kale had bought him a small, safe sedan a few weeks earlier and peeled out of the parking lot, his hands white-knuckling the steering wheel. Rain poured down, hitting the windshield so hard he could barely see, but he didn't care. He just needed to get home, needed to find Ren. When he pulled up to Kale's house, police cars and security vehicles were already parked in the driveway. Kale was standing on the porch, his jaw tight, his eyes dark with rage, his pheromones spiking, sharp, dangerous, like a storm about to break. He saw Kai and crossed the yard in 3 long strides, pulling him into his arms. "He's gone," Kale said, his voice low and gravelly. "Someone broke in through his window." Maria saw a black van driving away, but she couldn't get the license plate. Kai clung to Kale, his body shaking. Who would do this? Why? "Ren, he's just a baby." Kale pulled back, his hands on Kai's shoulders, his eyes intense. "I know who did this. Ethan." Kai's eyes widened. "Ethan? Why would he?" "Because he's been working with my rivals," Kale said, his voice cold. "I found out last week. He's been passing them information about my operations, about the restaurant, about us. He thinks he can use Ren as leverage, force me to hand over territory, to step down. But he's wrong. I want to find him, Kai. I'm going to get Ren back, and I'm going to make Ethan pay for what he's done." Kai nodded, his resolve hardening. He wasn't going to let Ethan hurt his son. He wasn't going to let anyone take away the family he'd finally found. "What can I do?" he asked. "I need to help. I can't just sit here and wait." Kale's gaze softened. "I need you to stay here. With Maria. With security. I don't want you anywhere near this. Ethan's dangerous, and I can't lose you two." "I'm not staying here," Kai said, his voice firm. "Ren is my son. I'm going with you. I'm going to find him." Kale hesitated, then nodded. He knew better than to argue with Kai when he was like this, determined, fierce, a mother's love making him brave. "Okay," he said, "but you stay by my side. Always. And if things get dangerous, you do exactly what I say." "Understand?" Kai nodded. "I understand." Kale kissed him hard and fast, then pulled away. "Let's go." They climbed into Kale's SUV, and Kale called his security team, his voice sharp and commanding. "I want every road out of the city checked. Every warehouse, every abandoned building, every place Ethan might be hiding. Find that black van. Find my son." The drive was tense, silent except for the sound of rain hitting the roof and Kale's low, urgent phone calls. Kai stared out the window, his mind racing. He thought of Ren, his soft hair, his calm eyes, the way he laughed when Kale tickled him, The way he'd curl up in Kai's lap at night. He thought of all the things he'd never gotten to do with him. Watch him take his first steps, hear him say his first full sentence, send him off to school. He couldn't lose him. He just couldn't. Cale's phone rang, and he answered it, his grip tightening on the steering wheel. What do you have? He listened, his jaw clenching. Abandoned shipping warehouse on the east side? Confirm it. I'm on my way. He hung up the phone and looked at Kai. They found him. Ethan's there. With Ren. Kai's heart raced. Is Ren okay? Did they see him? They saw the van parked outside, Cale said. They didn't see Ren, but they heard a baby crying. It's him, Kai. I know it. Cale pressed his foot down on the gas, the SUV speeding through the rain. Kai closed his eyes, sending up a silent prayer. Please let Ren be okay. Please let us get him back. When they arrived at the warehouse, it was dark, looming, surrounded by security vehicles. Cale's men were positioned around the perimeter, their guns drawn, their expressions serious. Cale turned to Kai, his hand resting on his cheek. Stay here with the men. I'm going in. No, Kai said. I'm coming with you. I need to see him. I need to make sure he's okay. Cale hesitated, then nodded. Stay behind me. Don't make a sound. If you see Ren, don't run to him. Wait for me to clear the area. Kai nodded, his hand shaking. He climbed out of the SUV, Cale's hand in his, and they walked toward the warehouse, the rain soaking their clothes, the wind howling around them. Cale pushed open the rusted metal door, and they stepped inside, the air thick with dust and the smell of gasoline. The warehouse was dark, only a few flickering lights hanging from the ceiling. Kai could hear Ren crying soft, scared sobs that made his heart ache. He followed Cale through the shadows, his eyes scanning the darkness for his son. Then he saw them. Ethan was standing in the center of the warehouse, holding Ren in his arms, a gun pressed to Ren's tiny chest. Ren was crying, his face red, his small hands reaching out for Kai. Daddy, he whimpered. Daddy, help. Kai froze, his breath catching in his throat. Ren, he whispered. Ethan smiled, a cold, cruel smile. Well, look who's here. The happy little family. He pressed the gun harder against Ren's chest, and Ren cried out louder. Stay back, Voss, or the baby gets it. Cale stepped forward, his body tense, his pheromones spiking. Dangerous, threatening, enough to make Kai's knees weak. Let him go, Ethan. This is between you and me. Don't involve a child. Ethan laughed, harsh, bitter sound. Between you and me. You destroyed my life, Voss. You took everything from me, my job, my reputation, my chance to rise in the network. And then you had to go and play happy family with this Omega and his bastard child. It's not fair. None of it's fair. You did this to yourself, Cale said, his voice cold. You betrayed me. You sold out to my rivals. You think this kidnapping a baby is going to get you what you want? It's not. It's only going to make me hurt you more. Ethan's eyes narrowed. I want your territory. All of it. And I want you to step down as leader of the network. If you do that, I'll let the baby go. Unharmed. Cale's jaw tightened. You think I'd trust you? You think I'd hand over everything I've built, everything I care about, to a man who'd use a child as leverage? Ethan pressed the gun harder, and Ren screamed. I don't care if you trust me. You have no choice. Either you do what I say, or the baby dies. Right here, right now. Kai couldn't take it anymore. He stepped forward, his hands outstretched. Ethan, please. Let him go. He's just a baby. He doesn't deserve this. I'll do anything you want. Just let him go. Ethan's gaze shifted to Kai, cold and cruel. You think I want anything from you, Omega? You're nothing. A weak, pathetic thing who got lucky with an alpha who pities you. But don't worry, once Voss steps down, I'll take care of you. And the baby. though I'm not sure how long he'll last without his precious alpha's pheromones. Kale growled, a deep, animalistic sound. Don't talk about him like that. Don't talk about Kai like that. He lunged forward, faster than Kai had ever seen him move. Ethan fired the gun, but Kale dodged, tackling Ethan to the ground. The gun skittered across the concrete, and Ren fell out of Ethan's arms, landing with a soft thud. Ren! Kai screamed, running to his son. He picked him up, holding him close, checking him for injuries. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? Ren clung to Kai, his body shaking. Daddy, he sobbed. Scared. So scared. I know, baby, Kai whispered, pressing kisses to his hair. I'm here. You're safe now. I won't let anyone hurt you again. Behind them, Kale and Ethan were fighting, fists flying, grunts of pain echoing through the warehouse. Kale was bigger, stronger, but Ethan was desperate, fighting dirty, scratching and biting. Kai watched, his heart racing, as Kale landed a punch to Ethan's jaw, sending him sprawling to the ground. Kale stood over him, his chest heaving, his eyes dark with rage. You should have never touched my family, he said. Ethan laughed, blood dripping from his lip. You think this is over? You think you've won? My allies are on their way. They'll be here soon, and they'll kill you. Kill all of you. Kale smiled, a cold, dangerous smile. No, they won't. I called them. Told them you betrayed them too. Told them you plan to take the territory for yourself. They're not coming to save you, Ethan. They're coming to kill you. Ethan's eyes widened. No, you're lying. They wouldn't. The sound of sirens cut him off. Not police sirens, security sirens, the kind Kale's men used. Ethan's face paled. No, he whispered. Kale knelt down, grabbing Ethan by the collar. This is the end for you. You'll spend the rest of your life in a cell, where you'll die at the hands of the men you betrayed. Either way, you'll never hurt anyone again. He stood up, signaling to his men. Take him away. Lock him up. I'll deal with him later. 2 security guards stepped forward, pulling Ethan to his feet and dragging him away. Ethan screamed, kicking and struggling, but it was no use. He was done. Kale turned to Kai and Ren, his expression softening. He walked over, his hands reaching for them. Are you okay? Both of you? Kai nodded, tears streaming down his face. We're okay. Thanks to you. Kale pulled them close, holding them tight. I'm so sorry this happened. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you better. It's not your fault, Kai said. You found us. You saved us. That's all that matters. Kale kissed the top of Kai's head, then leaned down to kiss Ren's cheek. I love you both. More than anything. I love you too, Kai said. Ren, still clinging to Kai, mumbled, Love Daddy Kale. Kale's eyes filled with tears. He held them tighter, as if afraid they'd disappear if he let go. The ride home was quiet. Ren sleeping in Kai's arms, his small body still trembling occasionally from the trauma. Kai held him close, his hand resting over Ren's heart, reassuring himself that his son was safe. Kale drove slowly, his hand on Kai's thigh, his thumb brushing gently over Kai's skin. When they got home, Maria was waiting for them, her eyes red from crying. She took Ren from Kai's arms, carrying him up to his room to tuck him in, and Kai and Kale sat down on the couch exhausted. I'm so glad he's okay, Kai said, his voice breaking. I don't know what I would have done if I'd lost him. Kale pulled him close, his arm around his shoulders. You'll never lose him. Not while I'm here. I'll protect you both until my last breath. Kai leaned into Kale's side, closing his eyes. I know. I trust you. They sat there for a long time, watching the rain fall outside, listening to the sound of Ren's soft breathing upstairs. Kai felt Kale's hand on the bond mark, his thumb brushing gently over it, and he smiled. The bond was stronger now, forged in fire and fear, in love and protection. It was unbreakable. In the days that followed, things slowly returned to normal. Ren had nightmares at first, waking up screaming in the middle of the night, but Kale would hold him, his pheromones wrapping around the baby like a blanket, calming him down. Kai stayed home from work for a week, spending every minute with Ren, reassuring him that he was safe, that he'd never be taken again. Ethan's fate was sealed quickly. His allies, furious at his betrayal, had him killed in his cell, and Kale didn't mourn. The network was restructured, Kale's power stronger than ever, and everyone knew better than to cross him, better than to mess with his family. Kai went back to work part-time, but Kale insisted on having a security guard with him at all times, just to be safe. The restaurant staff treated Kai differently now, with respect, with kindness, no longer seeing him as just a quiet Omega server, but as Kale Voss's mate, as a strong, brave father who'd fought to save his son. Ren thrived, his nightmares fading, his laughter returning. He loved having Kale home more, loved going to the park with both his dads, loved sitting on Kale's lap while Kale worked, coloring books on his desk. He was a happy, healthy little boy, surrounded by love, and Kai couldn't have asked for anything more. 3 months later, on a sunny Sunday morning, Kai woke up to the sound of laughter. He rolled over, smiling, to find Kale missing from the bed. He climbed out of bed and walked downstairs, following the sound to the kitchen. There Kale was standing at the stove, cooking pancakes, and Ren was sitting on the counter beside him, wearing a tiny apron that Kale had bought him, his small hands covered in flour. "Daddy," Kale looked, Ren said, holding up a handful of flour. "Snow." Kale laughed, brushing flour off Ren's cheek. "It's not snow, little one. It's flour. But if you keep throwing it, we'll never get breakfast done." Ren giggled, dropping the flour and reaching for Kale's hand. Kale took it, squeezing gently, and Kai felt his heart fill with love. This was his family. This was his home. Kale looked up, spotting Kai in the doorway, and smiled. "Good morning, beautiful." "Good morning," Kai said, walking over to them. He kissed Kale's cheek, then leaned down to kiss Ren's. "What are you two up to?" "Making pancakes," Ren said proudly. "For you, Daddy." Kai smiled. "That sounds perfect." He stood beside Kale, watching as he flipped pancakes, as Ren helped stir the batter and added a little too much sugar, as the kitchen filled with the smell of maple syrup and happiness. Kale slipped his arm around Kai's waist, pulling him close, and Kai leaned into his side, breathing in his scent, warm, protective hiss. "I love you," Kale whispered. "I love you too," Kai replied. Ren looked up at them, grinning. "I love both daddies." Kale and Kai laughed, leaning down to kiss Ren's cheeks at the same time. In that moment, Kai thought back to that terrible morning 6 months earlier, when he'd had no choice but to bring Ren to work, when he'd been scared he'd lose everything. He'd never imagined that bringing his baby to work would lead him here, to love, to family, to a life he'd only dreamed of. He thought he'd be fired. Instead, he'd found home. And as they sat down to eat pancakes, Ren chattering happily between them, Kale's hand resting over the bond mark on Kai's neck, Kai knew that this was where he was meant to be, with Kale, with Ren, safe and loved, forever and always. The guest house smelled like cinnamon and freshly baked bread. Kai stood at the kitchen counter, kneading dough for Ren's favorite apple cinnamon rolls, while Kale leaned against the doorframe, watching him with a soft smile. Ren was sprawled on the floor, surrounded by stuffed animals, his tiny hands patting a plush fox, Kai's old gift to him, against the carpet. It was a quiet Saturday morning, the kind Kai had only dreamed of before meeting Kale, warm, safe, and filled with the kind of domesticity he'd once thought impossible. "You're putting too much flour," Kale said, pushing off the doorframe and stepping closer. His hand brushed Kai's waist, his thumb grazing the bond mark hidden beneath Kai's sweater, their mark, a permanent reminder of the love that had grown from chaos and fear. Kai laughed, glancing over his shoulder. "Says the man who burns toast." Kale's lips curved into a grin, the scar on his jaw softening. "I don't burn toast. I just char it for flavor." He wrapped his arms around Kai from behind, pressing his chest to Kai's back, and breathed in his scent, warm, sweet, mixed with the cinnamon of the dough. "How did I get so lucky?" Kai leaned into the embrace, his hands slowing their kneading. I'm the lucky one. I still can't believe this is real. 3 months had passed since they bonded, since Ren had settled into their home, since Ethan's threat had faded into a distant memory. But some days it still felt like a dream. Waking up next to Kale, feeding Ren breakfast with him, coming home to laughter instead of silence. Kale pressed a kiss to Kai's neck, right above the bond mark. It's real, he whispered. All of it. We're real. Ren let out a gurgle from the floor, drawing their attention. He crawled over to Kale's feet, his small hand grabbing onto Kale's pant leg. Up, he babbled, pulling himself to a wobbly stand. Up, up. Kale knelt down, lifting Ren into his arms. The baby giggled, wrapping his chubby arms around Kale's neck and pressing his face into Kale's shoulder. You're getting too big, Kale said, nuzzling Ren's soft hair. Soon you'll be walking, then running, then talking my ear off. Kai smiled, watching them. Ren had started babbling more lately, mumbling mama sometimes, though Kai knew it was just a sound, not a name, and repeating words like fox and cookie when prompted. But he hadn't said daddy yet, not to Kai, not to Kale. Kai tried not to let it bother him. He knew every baby developed at their own pace. But sometimes, when he watched Kale with Ren, feeding him, playing with him, tucking him into bed, he ached to hear Ren call Kale daddy, to hear their family sealed with that one simple word. Want cookie? Ren asked, poking Kale's cheek. His tiny fingers brushed Kale's stubble, and he giggled. After breakfast, Kale said, setting Ren on the counter beside the dough. First, we helped Daddy Kai make rolls. He handed Ren a small bowl of flour, and Ren immediately dipped his hand in, sprinkling it over the counter in Kale's shirt, with a grin. Snow, Ren shouted. Flour, Kai corrected gently, wiping a smudge of flour from Ren's cheek. But snow works too. They worked together, Kai kneading the dough, Kale cutting it into rolls, Ren helping by dropping raisins into the mixing bowl and eating a few too. The kitchen filled with laughter, with the smell of cinnamon, with the warm, steady hum of Kale's pheromones. It was perfect. After putting the rolls in the oven, Kale carried Ren into the living room, settling on the couch with him. Kai followed, curling up beside them, and Kale wrapped an arm around Kai's shoulders. Ren was sitting in Kale's lap, flipping through a board book about animals, his small finger pointing at a picture of a fox. Fox, he said clearly. Good job, little one, Kale praised, brushing Ren's hair back. That's a fox. Just like your toy. Ren looked up at Kale, his calm eyes locking onto Kale's. For a long moment, he just stared, like he was trying to find a right word. Then, soft and clear, he said, Daddy. Kai's breath caught in his throat. He and Kale both froze, their eyes widening. Ren blinked, like he didn't understand the fuss, and pointed at the fox again. Daddy Fox. Kale's arms tightened around Ren, his face softening with emotion. He looked at Kai, his eyes glistening with tears, tears Kai had never seen from him before, not even when they'd bonded, not even when they'd gotten Ren back. Did you hear that? Kale whispered. Kai nodded, his own eyes filling with tears. I heard it. Ren looked between them, confused by their silence. Daddy, he said again, reaching for Kale's face. Daddy Fox. Kale kissed Ren's forehead, his voice rough with feeling. Yes, buddy. I'm Daddy. And that's a fox. He looked at Kai, his gaze warm and intense. And you're Daddy, too. Kai's heart swelled. He leaned over, pressing a kiss to Ren's cheek, then to Kale's lips. We're both Daddy, he whispered. Ren giggled, squirming in Kale's lap. Daddy, Daddy, he chanted, clapping his hands. Cookie now. Kale laughed, wiping a tear from his cheek. Cookie now, he agreed. They ate the cinnamon rolls at the kitchen table, Ren sitting in his high chair between them. He kept saying Daddy every few minutes, pointing at Kai when he handed him a roll, at Kale when he poured him a cup of milk, at both of them when he took a big bite. Each time, Kale's smile grew wider, his hand finding Kai's under the table and squeezing. After breakfast, Kale took Ren outside to play in the backyard. It was a sunny day. The snow from the winter melted into green grass, and Ren ran around chasing a butterfly, his laughter echoing through the yard. Kai stood on the porch, watching them, his heart full. Kale chased Ren, pretending to be a monster, and Ren shrieked with joy, running into Kale's arms when he caught him. Kale lifted him into the air, spinning him around, and Ren laughed so hard his cheeks turned pink. "Daddy!" Ren shouted, throwing his arms around Kale's neck. More. Kale kissed his cheek, setting him down. "One more spin," he said. "Then we have to go inside for a nap." Kai smiled, leaning against the doorframe. He'd never seen Kale like this, soft, playful, unguarded. The ruthless alpha boss everyone feared was gone, replaced by a man who loved his family more than anything. A man who'd fought for them, who'd protected them, who'd given Kai the home he'd always wanted. When Ren's nap time came, Kai and Kale tucked him into his crib together. Ren was already half asleep, his eyes fluttering shut as Kale brushed his hair back. "Daddy," he mumbled, grabbing onto Kai's hand and Kale's hand at the same time. Love you too, little one," Kai whispered, pressing a kiss to his forehead. Kale leaned down, kissing Ren's other cheek. "Sleep tight. We'll be right here when you wake up." They left the room, closing the door softly behind them, and walked back to the living room. Kale pulled Kai onto his lap, wrapping his arms around him, and Kai rested his head on Kale's shoulder. The house was quiet, the only sound Ren's soft breathing from upstairs. "I never thought I'd have this," Kale said, his voice low. "A family. Someone to come home to. Someone who loves me, not just what I can give them." Kai looked up at him, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "I never thought I'd have this either. I thought I'd be alone forever, raising Ren by myself, struggling to get by. But then I brought him to work. Then I met you." Kale's thumb brushed Kai's bottom lip, his eyes darkening with love. "Best mistake you ever made." Kai smiled, leaning up to kiss him. The kiss was slow, gentle, filled with all the love and gratitude they'd built together. Kale's hands tangled in Kai's hair, pulling him closer, and Kai melted into the kiss, his body relaxing against Kale's. When they pulled away, their foreheads pressed together, Kai could feel the bond thrumming between them, warm, strong, unbreakable. "I love you," Kai said. "I love you too," Kale replied. More than words. They sat there for a long time, holding each other, listening to Ren's soft snores. Kai thought about the day he brought Ren to Vasa's, scared, desperate, ready to lose everything. He thought about the moment he'd found Kale holding Ren, about the way Kale had defended him against Ethan, about the first time Kale had kissed him. He thought about their bond, about their home, about the way Ren had called them both daddy. Life wasn't perfect. There were still challenges. Kale's work in the underground network sometimes kept him late. Kai still had moments of fear that it would all be taken away. Ren was growing up too fast. But it was theirs. It was real. It was love. When Ren woke up from his nap, he crawled into the living room, his eyes lighting up when he saw them. "Daddy! Daddy!" he shouted, running to Kale and climbing onto his lap. He turned to Kai, holding out his arms. "Daddy, come." Kai smiled, joining them on the couch. Ren settled between them, his head resting on Kai's chest, his hand holding Kale's. "Story," he said, pointing at the bookshelf. "Which one?" Kale asked, picking up a book about a fox and his family. "Fox," Ren said, snuggling closer. Kale opened the book, his voice soft as he read. Kai listened, running his fingers through Ren's hair, and glanced at Kale. Their eyes met, and Kale smiled, a small, tender smile that made Kai's heart race. In that moment, Kai knew everything was exactly as it should be. He brought his baby to work, expecting to be fired. Instead, he'd found love. He'd found family. He'd found forever. And as Kale read, as Ren giggled at the pictures, as the sun set outside the window, Kai closed his eyes and smiled.